Last time, we talked about the crowd, how people can be loud without being loyal, how support can be emotional without being rooted, how public praise can look powerful and still be fragile. And that leaves us with a hard question. If the crowd was never stable, why did Jesus keep moving forward? Because he was never living for the moment. He was moving in mission. Jesus did not come to win applause. He came to finish the work. And that changes everything, because if you only read the surface of the story, it looks like everything fell apart. The excitement faded, the energy shifted, the public support disappeared. Pain stepped in, silence stepped in, loss stepped in. And to human eyes, that often looks like failure. But heaven was not confused. What looked like collapse was not the end. What looked like rejection was not the end. What looked like silence was not the end. What looked like death was not the end. That is the power of Easter. Easter is the reminder that God can still be working when everything around you looks broken. God can still be moving when people misunderstand the moment. God can still be writing victory in the middle of pain. That means some of us need to stop measuring our lives by public response. Because if God measured purpose the way people measure popularity, the resurrection story would never make sense. Think about that. The greatest victory in history did not come wrapped in hype. It did not come packaged in celebrity. It did not arrive through image management, branding tricks, or manufactured attention. It came through obedience. It came through sacrifice. It came through love that stayed the course. It came through the power of God doing what people thought could never happen. And that speaks directly to real life. Some people have felt forgotten. Some people have been overlooked. Some people have lost support. Some people have watched doors close, relationships shift, and encouragement dry up. And the temptation is to believe that if the crowd is gone, then the purpose must be gone too. But Easter says no. The crowd is not your source. The spotlight is not your source. Attention is not your source. God is your source. And if God gave you the assignment, then the absence of applause does not cancel the assignment. That is freedom. Freedom from trying to impress everybody. Freedom from trying to look important. Freedom from trying to build a life around image. Freedom from needing constant validation to know that what you are doing matters. A lot of people are tired because they are carrying an identity that was built for public approval instead of private obedience. But Jesus shows us a better way. He shows us that purpose can survive rejection. Peace can survive disappointment. Truth can survive betrayal. And life can rise where people only expected loss. That is why resurrection hope is so powerful. It is not shallow positivity. It is not pretending pain is not real. It is not acting like betrayal does not hurt. It is the deep confidence that what God begins, he can finish. That what God speaks, he can fulfill. That what looks buried is not always dead. So if your life feels quiet right now, if your support system changed, if people stopped showing up the way they promised, if your path feels less celebrated than you expected, do not confuse quiet with defeat. Some of God's greatest work happens where no crowd is clapping. And when resurrection power speaks, it does not need permission from public opinion. So build your life on something stronger. Not on hype, not on trends, not on fame, not on attention. Build it on Christ. Because the crowd changed, but the mission did not. The voices changed, but the truth did not. The moment changed, but God did not. And that is why hope still lives today. Happy Easter Sunday. DLK, Urban Gospel, and Christian Hip Hop.